still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was?
Oh.
Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jim. The American dream is just that, just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to another edition of The Story Behind the Story, coming to you live from the Wasatch Frontier in the everlasting hills of Utah. We have, as usual, our simulcast being brought to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we do want you to know we do originate the program at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Studio B. We've been broadcasting here from originating for gollies. I hate to think how many years we've been now with Revolution Radio, but quite a few. And thanks to Alex Studer, who's taking a forced sabbatical, unfortunately, from The Story Behind the Story. He is responsible for bringing us this simulcast connection with the incredible group operating out of the Philippine Islands. Yes, the Philippine Islands in Manila. We call him Major Burdock. Golly, you know, it's fun to see how the Goldwater reporting network has expanded and grown in importance, as well as 8chan and of course the erstwhile QAnon, Q being the 17th letter of the English alphabet. Mysterious, yes. Ex-military, more than likely. Just kind of keeping the dark hats, if you will, at bay. We can't hope to overcome all evil, I submit, but we can surely try to keep the checkerboard on an even playing field. In other words, as just as many black squares or as there are white squares. Major Burdock informed us that he's not going to be able to join in. He's out doing some crazy things in Macau. Knowing Major, they're not so crazy. They're probably just a thrill seeker in a minute. I'll tell you what. But so he's asked his stand-in, his able stand-in, Mr. Philip Fairbanks, to join us. We also have him on the line. So say hello to our listening audience, Philip. Again, thanks for coming on tonight. Okay, well, Philip, if you're there, maybe you have your connection blocked. You're muted, whatever. We just haven't heard from you. So Philip is not with us, I guess. Okay, well, we do have Abby, I believe, tapping in with the. I believe so. Abby, are you there with us tonight? Tapping in with the Goldwater. She has no audio. Thank you, Dominic. Okay, well, we're just flying a new edition of Skype. It seems like Skype is continuously changing up their connections and this. But Abby is typing. That's good. She can communicate that way. Thank you, Abby. She says, I can hear you, but don't have audio. Sorry, no problem. We just wanted to hear, make sure you're not a robot. Now, we know you're not a robot, of course not. I got to tell you, these hackers that are so good at tapping in, I'm just a simple country boy. I got to tell you, my company, Mother Earth Minerals, has been around since the early stages of the internet, the first days. We were one of the first sites to go online as far as commercial sales is concerned, and it was simple back then. We didn't have to worry about bots hacking in. We didn't have to worry about phony email addresses, yada yada yada. It's just all was going. Okay, well, thanks, Abby. But we're trying to get our guests lined up. We're having a little problem, I guess with Skype. We will do what we can to let them know that it's hard to communicate if they're not online. Let me just jump in and tell you who I invited to be on the show tonight, my good friend, I shouldn't say Mr. Dr. Arthur Evangelista. Just an amazing interview. He really is. I've known him for, good golly, a long time, at least a decade and a half, I would say. And he brings to the table a lot of information. He really does. Dr. Evangelista is a Vietnam area veteran. Sorry, I should say Vietnam era. Vietnam era in the Vietnam area. How's that sound? He served in the U.S. Army as military policeman. That's him probably trying to call in now. I'll give him another number. Hold on a second. Hey Arthur, with that number we tried to call you, it can't reach on the line. I'll try the cell number. I'm live on the radio right now. Okay. So hang tight on this number. If for whatever reason that 827 number is not working, I'll punch this one in for you. Okay? Hold on. There we go. You know, it's a total communication breakdown as usual, but it seems like when we get everything going, it's all fine. Okay, I don't want to give this number out live on the air. Let me type it into the Skype if I could do that, and we'll try that. I don't know what the problem is. Now I can't even. Now my computer's locked up. We're having some fun times here. Let's try this button. Okay, hang with us, guys. We're doing the best we can down in Skype world here. Now, what is going on? That sweet little spinning color disc tells me there's a problem with my computer. Okay, there it goes. Yippee. That's the number. Try that. He's waiting live to get on. We'll just hopefully that'll work. I don't know if the problem is on the Skype side or just a bad number. Okay. Well, as we try to get it done, I don't know. Oh wow. The as it happens. Okay, he's on. Hey, we're live. Wow. Snafu time, Dr. Art. I apologize so much, but you're live on the story behind the story. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is Dick Wells speaking.
Oh, hi, Dick. You with us? Is Dr. Art there with you on the line, or?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay, good deal. We got the connection. I apologize for that. Seemed like there was some kind of a snafu. So when I talked to Dr. Art yesterday, you're both up in the same neck of the woods in God's country up in Montana, beautiful area, but roasting in unseasonably warm, hot weather. Dr. Art says,
oh boy, 115 today.
That's not natural and normal for that North Country, is it?
Not really.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Have you set records? Is it record breaking?
I haven't been keeping track of it.
Well, sometimes
record keeping is somebody else's job.
Right, but I mean, there's going to be news information supposedly coming out telling what the historical highs are. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Golly, thanks for coming on, Mr. Wells. Let me tell our listening audience a little bit about your background history, if I could, and then we'll jump right in with some questions. Again, let me just inform you, and if Dr. Art can listen in, as well as tell him, we've got the simulcast brought in by the Goldwater Network, and they're based out of the Philippine Islands. Actually, they do our simulcast. We've got connections anywhere from 300,000 to 400,000 hookups on a typical night. So again, we just thank the folks at the Goldwater for tuning in. The simulcast happens. It's also tape recorded and put into later. You can just click a view on and listen to it as you have leisure. And a lot of people do that because around the world, especially like in the Philippines, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning there. So do we have Philip with us? Did Philip able to connect on? Yeah, Philip was filling in for our 8chan Connect tonight, Major Burdock, so we had some problems with getting Philip standing by. But anyway, Mr. Dick Wells is invited on. He's a friend and colleague of my good friend, Dr. Evangelista. And so, just by way of introduction, Dick is also a military veteran. I would assume that's kind of how you two guys have clung together. You both are veterans, served the country very well. You were in the Navy and the National Guard, California National Guard, for 6+ years. And so, what in the world brought you to come to Montana up there to get hooked up with the Dr. Evangelista?
Well, it wasn't to hook up with Doc. I came to Montana in the 70s. I was going upwind and upstream to get away from the drug influence in California because I had little kids. I didn't want to be influenced by it. And when we got here, we found out the drugs had already arrived.
Right. I mean, it's no matter where you go, they seem to be pervasive as people try to escape. So what do you do for fun in this stage of your life, Mr. Wells?
Well, I'm active in fundraising for Sanders County Veterans Transportation. We've raised the money to buy vehicles to transport veterans to their health care appointments free of charge with the DAV Volunteer Transportation Network.
Well, that's just flat out awesome. So, what do you have a pretty good VA situation there, Veteran Affairs, a nursing home, hospital type of thing up there?
Yeah, my experience with VA has been very positive. They treat me like I'm the crown prince. Every need I have, they meet.
Well, that's phenomenal, and you probably deserve it with all the work that you're doing to get transportation available. I mean, that's the problem. We have so many veterans getting older. Especially like my father's era was. My father was wounded in action in the Korean conflict. Lost an arm. Had a lot of residual problems, nerve damage, and a lot of PTSD and that. But his veteran buddies in the VFW Hall and that they're just kind of passed away. My father passed away quite a few years ago, and now if you find a World War II or Korean conflict veteran that they're getting fewer and far between. And it's a shame, actually. So hats off to you, absolutely, Dick, for all the work that you do in this behalf. Now, so Sanders County up there, that's to give us an idea of where you're located on the map of Montana. Are you eastern, central, western?
Northwestern.
Northwestern. So that's a pretty good country up there. There's a small town called Clark's Fork on the border there of Montana and the panhandle of Idaho. So you're probably pretty close to that area then, right?
They're about 90 miles away.
Yeah, so that's absolutely gorgeous country. Do you and Art go fishing much, or do you just kind of hang tight, not doing much?
I haven't fishing for quite a while. I don't get around too good anymore.
Oh, my dear. So the reason why Dr. Art wanted you to come on the show primarily is because of some of the more important work you do, and let's talk about that. Land patent specialist, as well as a constitutionalist. You actually created a constitution course. So what? To help people learn about why the Constitution was written and what freedoms it protects us. Tell us about that.
Well, the course I offered was a video course, a canned video course, and from time to time I'd have to stop it when the presenter would say something that I didn't think was quite right. Classic example was he said the states are protection from armed invasion, and I said stop the video and said, okay, class, open your Constitution. What does it say? Oh, they don't have to be armed. The protection is against invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
You brought up the issue of land patents. Many people think because they have a deed, because they paid a place off, they own it. Well, if they look at their deed, they'll see that they're called a tenant. That's not by accident. They don't really own it. See, all private property stems from a land grant from a foreign king or a land patent signed by a U.S. president or his delegate. And the language of the patent says, by my hand I make these letters patent. Well, what are the letters? Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2 of the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the power to dispose of property belonging to the United States, and they do that by issuing letters of patent, which the president can sign into law. And when he does that, it's a contract executed between the United States, the original patentee, his heirs, and assigns, that would be us, forever. And it's possible to bring this patent forward. There's a process for doing this, and that's where I come in. There's a process for doing this, and when you do it, your land is immune to collateral attack. No court can take it from you and give it to somebody else. Someone can sue you and win, and all they can get is money. They can't get your land. You can't buy insurance to protect your private property rights the way the land patent does.
Wow. So that's incredible information, actually. So how was it received by the, shall we say, the federal government powers that be?
Well, it pretty much puts a halt to anything they might do to your land. See, no government agent or agency has any authority on patented land. The protection comes from Article 1, Section 10, where there is a prohibition against impairing the obligation of contract.
Wow.
And anything they attempt to do is going to be an impairment.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, this is really important information, folks. It truly is. And I've been saying this myself for oh golly, since I was doing live radio at in southern Utah at KSUB Radio, because I was stunned when I found out as a candidate for the Iron County Commission seat, when I went in and did some paper trail digging about what happens when you get that so-called mill levy, your tax notice on your land or property or green belt, farmland, whatever it may be. Where the actual money goes was a stunner to me. It was actually eye-opener. Have you done any work study on that, Mr. Wells?
As a matter of fact, I and my associates are very actively involved in challenging the property tax. And, of course, the challenge is based in law, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to bring that to a halt.
Now, I got to tell you, this was back in the mid-1980s when I discovered this. I'm assuming that not much has changed about where the money goes. Let's say that you have a $10,000 tax bill that you pay up front. Of course, if you don't pay, in most cases, it goes into a penalty phase after about 5 or so years. The the government entity will come and actually auction off your land, and that happens quite often. Tax sale type of thing. But what was interesting to me is I found out the county recorder's office, or the county assessor's office, would take the money, this $10,000, would basically send it to a state company, a state government agency. Where it went from there was, they didn't want me nosing into that. They didn't want me finding where it was divvied up. I found it was interesting because approximately 1/3, 33.33%, went back to the county of origin for their use and the government entities there. I was able to find out that another third goes to the state of origin for their use in county or in state government. And then what was interesting to me is the other third went to a federal account that was really a Commonwealth account offshore that was, from all intents and purposes, was owned by the British monarchy, the Crown of Great Britain. I was so shocked at that. I was first shocked, and then I was livid about that. I don't know. People ask me all the time, so what? What does it matter? Well, it matters if we're really free or not. Do we really own anything? Or are we just vassals on the land that we think is free? Because I like what the German philosopher Goethe said, that I think is so apropos. No man, Goethe said, is more hopelessly enslaved than he who falsely believes he is free. So if you falsely believe that you own your land, and yet you're just a vassal, you see where I'm going with this? Are we really free?
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm continually amazed at the number of people I encounter that I explain this to them, and they say, "Well, I'm not having any problems," and I don't understand why they don't want to own what they bought and paid for. It just escapes me.
Yeah, I mean that's the mentality of American people. They really are. I hear what you're saying, because if you rock the boat too much, I'm gonna have all kinds of problems. I don't want to be looked upon as a radical. I don't want to, step outside the box and make myself a lightning rod. I hear that all the time as well, and so nothing really changes too much. That's why I do radio, by the way. That's why I do this radio show, is to get people's machine, their brain, their incredible gray matter, get the wheels turning a little bit, and hopefully get people to start thinking. Hey, listen, we finally did connect with our our good friend over in the Philippines. Oh my goodness, you had some problems getting on with us tonight, Philip. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, the net is out in the condo I'm staying in, so I'm using a mobile hotspot, and it's raining pretty heavy out there. So I guess, you guys, at first I'm sitting there waiting for you guys to, I'm looking at the Skype, then I check the connection, and it looks like it's connected, but there's no signal. Then I get connected. You guys called that first call. There's an internet connection problem. Can't accept the call. So yeah, so far so good for the moment, though. At least it's good to be here.
Well, I'm so good to have you. So where is Major Burdock? He's off playing.
Oh, I believe he and Toby are headed to Macau. They're gonna be filming some stuff. I hope I'm not disclosing any top secret information, but I believe there might be a bungee jump involved. We did a bungee jump when we were in Sentosa Island in Singapore for the summit, and I know Burdock really enjoyed that. I ended up facing my fears as well, but yeah, I think the Macau spot is the highest bungee jump in the world, evidently. Yeah.
He sent me that video, and I'm sitting there, no, for a couple of reasons. I don't know how tall and how well built Major is, but I stand 6'7", and I'm about
Right.
280 pounds. I like to say it's all hard muscle, but it's not. I think that bungee would stretch all the way, and I'd still hit the ground. It would just, and then the snapback would be such. I mean, something would break. I'm sorry. Not for me.
I'm still surprised that I did it. I can be on the third level at a mall and look down at the bottom floor, and I get dizzy.
Oh.
So but once they strap you in, you're literally strapped in. So it's like, okay, it's bought the ticket, might as well take the ride.
Not me. No, I would be safe, because I don't think they would have a strap big enough to strap me. And maybe I'm. Hey, we're digressing. We have a really good discussion going on here with Mr. Dick Wells, engineer and constitutional scholar. I mean, this is really important information. I know a lot of people listening into the show through the Goldwater, and of course through HN, through your connection, Philip.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people they do contact me, that they've listened to the show. A lot of them are ex-patriot, ex-military, that are just like, why should I stay in America when I can live like a king, in a different area? And this is why the Philippines is so attractive to a lot of folks.
There's it's the little things sometimes, like we shot at a firing range the other day. If you want to own a gun here, though, I saw the paperwork, and you have to provide proof of, this is a direct quote, proof of citizenship if foreign sounding name. Little stuff like that in America. Oh my gosh, that's profiling, right? But would it help? Does profiling help sometimes, maybe?
Well, I wondered, Ott is definitely German, as in Otto.
Right.
So maybe if I had a shaved head, would they call me a neo-Nazi? I don't know. Maybe not allow me to get.
No, I doubt that. See, a lot of things that would be considered like, it's a totally different, like a lot of the cultural Marxism aspects that are infesting Europe and the U.S. I don't see a lot of that here. That it is really nice, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So, but the discussion is Dick Wells and his work is with the disabled American veterans, and he just explained what he does. Just allowing transportation to disabled veterans, and he said himself he's kind of getting to the point where he doesn't get around too much himself, so he needs transportation help as well. So what he's done, and what I really like to focus on with him is just, first of all, the information that you really are just a tenant on your land if you own land. And I don't care where you are in America, 50 states. The actual landowner appears to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wells, but appears to be the Crown of England. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say the Crown of England, but at least it's government. And people really should be able to own what they bought and paid for. Right of property is the sticking point for liberty. If you can't own property, you are property.
Okay, so fill our listening audience in on what it means. Now, I'm a little confused on this myself. There was something called a lloydal title. Is that what we're talking about here? Is a patent type of thing that you?
Yes.
Okay.
A lloydal title simply means that you owe no fealty to any superior. Now you see that the Northwestern Ordinance outlawed the feudal system, but the property tax system reestablishes that, and it's unlawful.
So when did this come to be? Was it always that way since the 13 original colonies? Yeah.
The whole idea was, the king owned all the land. And the reason the United States separated from England was so that they would be in charge. They would own the land and not the king.
Okay, so how did it get back away from the victories that we won during the Revolution, or suppose we won? Where did it kind of go astray from that, Dick?
Well, that's a little hard for me to pinpoint, but I do know that basically it's because people just haven't been paying attention. They don't see what's happening for what it is.
I see. Yeah, let me share with you what I have deducted, and I can see that there is, it's like an octopus. Surely there's tentacles everywhere there, whether it's the Club of Rome, whether it's there seems like there's an epicenter of of power in the City of London financial district that's connected to Washington, D.C., district of corruption. And then, of course, to the Vatican itself, there is such an incredible power base there, the Jesuitical order. I've done a lot of research and paper trails on that. Let me just throw this out to you. This may be conjecture, but I think it's educated conjecture, if you will. I was stunned at when you read the treaties that ended the wars, the American Revolution, the Treaty of Versailles, Paris, of course. The city of London was battling for worldwide interests with France, and so France joined and supported the troops under Washington and trained the troops and was largely helpful in being, the victory over Cornwallis and the surrender of Lord Cornwallis. So you read the gains made under the Treaty of Paris, again brokered by such people as Benjamin Franklin and others, and it was, the whole thing is, we want to be free of the kingly yoke. We want to basically, and like you said so well, Dick, the key to that, the hinge on which that all opens and closes, is right of your land. You be a free man on a patch of land where you can build your domicile, your castle, if you will, and that is yours. That is your place. Okay. Yeah. But guess what? Has anybody really read the Treaty of Ghent, England, not of the Treaty of Versailles, that happened to end the conflict called the War of 1812? When I personally read the Treaty of Ghent, England, it seemed to me, of course, I just read the words, right, and understand the meanings, that many of the cessations, many of the things won during the Revolution was actually revoked during the Treaty of Ghent. So wait a minute, did the United States even win that War of 1812? I submit to you that we did not.
Yeah. And then you find out that the United States of America is incorporated.
And that happened quite recently, actually, where it became. Oh man, yeah, you're right on. You're right on.
And the problem with being incorporated is zero autonomy.
Yeah, and then it brings us to the Civil War, the American Civil War. Golly, if sure, the slave issue was an important part of the planks of why America went to war as the Civil War. But if you look at the Southern senators and congressmen that were so impassioned, the system of plantation, the agrarian need for labor, and that in the American South of that era, was dependent upon again the right of those plantation owners and others to basically work their land. So when you talk about states' rights, this was a lot of what South Carolina was upset about. And, sure, they didn't want Mr. Lincoln and other Northerners to come down and tell them how to run their operation. And so they says, get out, you're no different than what King George was doing during the Revolution. That was basically their rhetoric, right? It was all about, I have the right to do my land, to do the things that I've always done for generations, right or wrong. It is my freedom that you're attacking here.
If it was about slavery, then what was the Corwin Amendment? The great emancipator was perfectly willing to sign into an amendment. He was going to guarantee the legality of slavery. So if it was about slavery, it was sort of about slavery. After the Civil War, we had the 14th Amendment, which guarantees slavery in certain circumstances.
Yeah, good point,
So when
Philip.
you're
Yeah.
deprived of liberty, you're allowed to be you can be made a slave. You know. So yeah, there wasn't slavery in the Constitution until the Civil War.
Good point. Good point. Your comment on that, Dick. That's a good point.
Well, the 14th Amendment is something that many people don't understand, because when you are a United States citizen, you don't have the constitutional protections.
Ooh, well, that's an interesting thought.
Only American nationals have the protection of the Constitution.
So how do you become an
14th Amendment,
How does one become a national then, as opposed to a citizen?
well, it begins with your state of birth. That's where you are a citizen. I am a citizen of Virginia, domiciled in Montana. I'm an American national. I'm not a United States citizen per the 14th Amendment.
So are you saying this has to be a legal document declaring this? And if so, where do you file this?
There's a process for that. You put it in the clerk and recorder's office and have it recorded. There's a process for doing it.
Wow. I mean,
But read the 14th Amendment, just the very beginning of it. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's the key word.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
Are citizens of the United States.
Go ahead, Philip. You got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, it sounded like are subject to the United States. That's, to me, that's once again why we had a war with England, because we wanted to be sovereigns in a sovereign nations, not subject to a sovereign.
Exactly so. And the sovereign in this country is based in the people.
Wow.
The people are the sovereigns. But I didn't come here to talk about that. I write for the Veterans Voice. I'm on the masthead, and I've written for it for 15 years. And I'd like to read something that I published in the current issue. The title is Words Have Meaning. And if you'll bear with me, I can read it very quickly.
Absolutely. Please do.
Many of my readers will recall my endless arguments and admonitions for people, especially those in candidates for office, to read the Constitution. We have them circulating among us in various forms, mostly little booklets titled The Constitution of the United States. How can anyone call it the Constitution of the United States when in the outset, the preamble, it clearly states, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Admittedly, there's a place where you'll find the Constitution of, however, it's in the preamble to the Bill of Rights that does not excuse its use elsewhere. One publisher actually offered this little disclaimer. Because the original Constitution had no title, we use the one you see now, the Constitution of the United States. But there's more. Read on. We say candidates declaring for Congress in our elections. My immediate question is, which house? Moreover, we see and hear talk of the House and the Senate. There are two houses in Congress. One is the House of Representatives, and the other is the Senate. However, we see and hear talk of the House and the Senate. One needs only to read the Constitution and learn that there are indeed two houses. Article 1, Section 5. Each house shall, each house may, each house shall, neither house, the two houses shall. The point here is that while there are two houses in Congress, it's become common to call one by its function and the other by its predicate, to wit, the Senate and the House. I call it laziness. Our candidates owe us to declare for the House of Representatives or the Senate and not shortchange it to Congress. Another aspect of the syndrome is when people address one as senator and the other delegate as congressman, both members of Congress. If you call one of them congressman, then you must call both of them congressmen. Congress is a generic term that applies equally to members of both houses. Article 1, Section 1, quote, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. And I think it's very important that when people, and particularly the people we elect to Congress, that they call themselves either representative or senator. And if one of them is called congressman, then the other one has to be called congressman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Makes sense. Let me ask you this, Dick. In the very, what does a word mean? Okay, the term constitutor. Are you aware of what that word actually entails? What it means? What a constitutor is?
I don't believe I've ever heard that word.
Well, when I was going to college and doing I was studying accounting actually at Southern Utah University, and I was just digging into Black's Law Dictionary a while back, and because I was doing business law, and I came across the whole definition of what a constitutor is. And it was kind of stunning to me. A constitutor, by definition, legal definition, is one who has a debt. It's a connection of a debt. It's a debt and a payor. Okay, the constitutor is the one that the debt is owed to. All right. So the Constitution, in a very broad definition of legality terms, is a source document documenting that debt is owed. Now, look at the first part of you're a constitutional scholar, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you see, the first parts is to pay the king, the crown, reparations for the loss of Hessian soldiers, and that and make reparations of that of those payments. Now, I found it interesting that, of course, we had the Articles of Confederacy that was doing pretty doggone well, really. So why do we need to change the Articles of Confederation into a constitution? Let me just ask you that question. What do you think is entailed with that?
What the Constitution did was establish the rules for government. And that's its sole function. It's a charter for government. Right.
For what reason? See, that goes back to the constitutional conventions, the initial. It took them quite a few years to hash this whole thing out. You see, right? I mean, you're talking 1782, right? You're looking at. I mean, it was acrimonious at much of the time. They were almost in fist fights over a lot of this, and I think the reason, how can we have won this victory over the king, and we have to pay restitution? We have to pay something to him, and so wow, I think that didn't sit with a lot of people that fought in the Revolutionary War, and many of them had wounds, had lost limbs, etc., etc. So, yet there was a 30-year payment bill. Okay, so it went from 1782, 30 years, to the year 1812. Well, there was a grand bank that was basically tied to the City of London and the House of Rothschild. Okay, that basically wanted these reparations because of the House of Hesse this is who recruited these mercenaries, the Hessians. Okay, these were German mercenaries. So the charter ended in the 1812, and Andrew Jackson came and said, "That's it. We're going to rout you vipers out. You're done." And then there was the amendment passed that you could not have a title of nobility. I'm not sure what number that is. The title of nobility, you couldn't have a title of a sir, a knight, or an esquire. An esquire is those people that were given the title of nobility because they had signed and swore a loyalty oath. Get this, not to the country, not to the United States, not to the Constitution, but to the Temple Bar of the City of London. They were the barristers. They were the attorneys. This is where, many attorneys say, "I'm such and such Esquire." Okay. Well, when word of this came out in 1811, all of this posturing to disenfranchise the agents of the king and the agents that had their loyalty to the City of London, the financial heads. Oh my goodness. Baron Rothschild said, "We're going to teach these impudent colonists a lesson they will never forget," and this is why the War of 1812 happened. I went around like Jay Leno a few years back, doing a walkabout. Tell me about the War of 1812. What do you know about? I was at the local mall, talking to people. Well, I know it was the War of 1812. I know we had it. Yada yada yada. Do you know what started the War of 1812? And I get the most incredibly dumb looks, like, no, I really don't know. Yeah, so you see this happening, and then the question becomes, did we, the United States, win that war, or did the British Navy successfully blockade Fort McHenry, and did they take control of Washington, D.C. and occupy it? Well, in fact, they did. The Capitol was being built, was in construction. It was the de facto head of the country, and the history books are pretty clear. James Madison was president. Dolly was able to save some artwork and put him in a wagon as they left, and the British troops were putting fire to the Capitol and destroying it. Well, excuse me, but if you capture the enemy's capital in a war of aggression, does that kind of not mean you won the war? Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, come on.
I think you pretty well understand.
So we go into the Treaty of Ghent. We see the payment of tribute in the form of tax structure, and this whole concept of the title of land and the loyal became kind of a lost in the shuffle. I think even back then, I may be wrong, but golly, you're right on, Mr. Wells. As far as if you don't own the land and you don't have a patent title to that land, you're simply a tenant. You're a rentor. You don't own a thing.
That's for sure.
What do you think, Philip? What do you think about that monologue?
I do believe that there's been. It feels like there's been a series of steps. You mentioned the Civil War. Talking about the acrimony, so to speak. From the beginning. It was the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and whether it was issues with the central bank, with a central bank, and states' rights. It looks like just chipping away. We've become more and more subjects of federalism.
Yeah, most definitely, and people just, besides being dumbed down, their IQ is such that a lot of people just can't grasp this. They think, oh, I just got to go to my 9-to-5 job
And they don't care. That's another issue. Just plain apathy, you know?
Yeah, and then they look at you like, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist. You know, you're some kind of radical nutcase. You know, you probably believe the Second Amendment. It's important that you have the right to keep and bear arms. No, I think the right to peaceably assemble and to absolutely have a militia is why we need to keep and bear arms. That's what the Second Amendment is. The right for a militia to gather together to protect the common welfare. And what good is a militia? You don't have guns. I mean, come on. I'm crazy. People say that all the time. Dr. Ott, you're just flat out a conspiracy nutcase. Thank you. Move along. There's nothing here to see.
Well, to be called crazy in an insane world, you know.
Yeah, I like to quote to these folks. This is on my wall of my office. It goes back to the time of Plato. And it's simply, I haven't memorized. He says, an incredible time in which we live, where young and old are taught in falsehood school. And the one man that dares to tell the truth is called at once a vagabond and a fool. So, wow, it's what it is. And it's no different at the time of Plato. I mean, anybody that sees the machinations of men and women who want power and want control and want wealth. Freedom is something that they got to stamp out. I mean, it really truly is. Well, so the first hour is just about over, guys. Mr. Wells, is there how can people get a hold of you if they want more information about your series and what you can help people get patented?
Well, excuse me, yes, you can reach me on the telephone, area code 406.
Go ahead, continue. It's okay. 406, area code 827-4337.
That's correct.
All right, we tried to. We'll take a break at the top of the hour. Stay tuned. We'll come back. We'll hear from Dr. Arthur Evangelista as well as Mr. Wells. Any questions we might have from the listening audience to post. Again, glad to be with us here, Philip. It's good to have you. We'll talk more about.
Good to be here. Thanks, guys.
Stay tuned. Don't be right back.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just so slightly you?
You have, paraphrase Marcus, a split in your mind.
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
download it to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
We are 90 down, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Join me today, Joe. There'll be a problem brought to you live from Kansas, Thursdays, dealing with hot topics, heated debate, what's new around the world, and ring-ins to discuss listeners' problems and offering considered and heartfelt solutions. So join me, Chris Hart, or tell Chris Joe, stop what you're doing, grab a cup of tea, and come live from Kensington, relax, let me entertain you with a coffee bar online. It's very small problem. So that's Thursdays, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. See you there. It'll be lots of fun.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place, in your hands, where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The doctor is in. Yeah, I'm your host, Dr. H. Ruan. Oh, yeah, I hope we're coming through loud and clear, folks. It seems like there's a lot of bit of static in the line. That's fading back. It's going along. Thank you again, Mr. Rowe, for the work you do connecting our guests. Oh, as we simulcast, there's more and more and more work to do, and we could not do it without your help. Flat out could not. So the doctor is in. I am Dr. H. Rudd. I have a PhD in the field of nutrition, and to me, I got to tell you, as far as the learning curve is concerned, well, you know what BS means. Well, I have a BS degree to begin with, and well, BS, you know, it's stuff that kind of smells a little bad and gets in your shoes if you step in it wrong. And MS is just more of the same, and PhD is simply piled higher and deeper as far as I'm concerned, and that. So yeah, golly, we just try to, wisdom is simply the act of putting what you know in your gray matter to common everyday use, and my job, and why I do the radio show, is to get people to think. One of my favorite people that I've known for so many years is Dr. Evangelista, Dr. Art. I'm not, this man is so down to earth and grounded. I just love talking with him over the years and bouncing things. So I asked him to come on and give us an update on his life. He's had an interesting one, folks. He really has. Dr. Art, are you with us tonight?
I certainly am. Thank you for having us on, Doctor.
Well, I gotta meet you guys. I wanna buy Dick Wells a steak, and we can have a bourbon if you want. I don't know. I'm not a drinking man, and I've never smoked a cigar. I might turn green, but just for you, I just might puff away and say hi. Okay, that's the Mormon in me. I grew up Mormon. I never touched tobacco or alcohol, but since I left Mormonism, I can take a little bit of alcohol once in a while, because you know why? The Bible that I read tells me that Jesus thought enough about the wedding breakfast and the wedding feast. The first miracle he did was turn that water into wine.
Right.
It couldn't have been that bad. If it was, I just don't want to get drunk, But it was a good wine too. People say all the time, "No, that was just grape juice." No, it was the good stuff. I mean, it was aged. I mean, it was really good stuff. Okay.
I believe it was a really good Cabernet, if I'm not mistaken.
You could well be. Well, thank you, Mr. Wells. I mean, that was a great hour. We got to have him on again for sure. That's good information. Really.
Oh, absolutely. And, the Constitution, I think even people in Congress, just to throw a comment out there, I think anybody we elect to represent us should have a test about the Constitution for the United States. And if they don't pass it, they don't get into office.
Now that sounds like awful radical stuff. I mean, you'd want to have some immigrants. I mean, these poor imams that come over from the Middle East that think they have to put out Sharia law. You can't be serious. You're just a hate monger if you think that these religious misrepresented people like Sharia law proponents aren't a threat. Now, that's hate speech, Dr. Evangelist. That's hate. Hey, you wanted to talk about Sharia law versus Shiite law, why that's such a threat. Is that why you personally are kind of a prepper? Shall we say kind of? You are a prepper, okay? You've got your ducks in a row. You're there in the beautiful part of the world in Montana. You're ready for about anything, aren't you?
Well, as you know, being a frequent visitor to the Panhandle of Idaho, yes, we have the area where we are in currently, being in the Rocky Mountains, being rural, being self-sufficient, being self-responsible, as opposed to our urban counterparts. We take our freedom and liberty here very seriously, including our Constitution. And we are not pleased with the, I call our representatives, or the people, as you said, in the district of corruption. These people are absolute parasites and traitors to our country. And the problem with Sharia, immigration in general, and I wouldn't even call it immigration anymore. It's more of an invasion across the board. And I think that's something that we really need to take a step back and look at it for exactly for what it is, and not even worry about the name calling, which is just to shut us up. The political correctness is just to keep the people that are trying to speak the truth quiet.
Well, yeah, you're right. I hear you, and when I talk to people, that I think are more of a moderate base. They're not left wing or right wing. They're just kind of right in the middle of the fence, the road. And you talk about the dangers of this, what the Sharia law principles are, and believe me, I've studied them. The parallels between that radical side of the Muslim faith is so similar to Mormonism. It really truly is. They both think that it's their destiny to fill and to control the entire world through a theological power base. Okay, and there's just no opposition. There's no, you talk about lack of freedom. That's one of the reasons why I exited Mormonism, is because of, they believe that Mormonism is predestined by God to fill the entire world, and the Mormon extremism of, you don't, it's so autocratic, it's actually communistic in its form. It truly is. So when you talk to people that are middle of the fence on these type of issues, one of the big things they always seem to come around with, yeah, but true, doctor, we're all immigrants at some point. We all came over. I says, yeah, but we did it by the law for good of all. We're talking about, when you have individuals with an agenda to take down, this freedom, this system of the Bill of Rights or amendments to our Constitution, to basically become, we're all in a form of like a prison structure. We can't really say anything. Political correctness is part of that. For heaven's sakes, you say one word in a teleconference that happens to start with the letter N, and your whole pizza chain is suddenly in toast, hurting big time. That's political correctness. I'm not saying he was right or wrong using that vernacular, but don't hurt innocent people that disagree with what he might think or say. That one word. I gotta throw this out there, and it's a little off topic perhaps, but why is it okay? Why is it okay for African American men to use that word, but it's not okay for a white cracker to use that word?
I cannot answer that, Doc.
Mr. Fairbanks probably has an answer to that. Because I detect a little bit of a Southern accent there, Mr.
Yeah, it's because there's certain protected classes, and yes, there's a little bit of a Southern accent. Oh yeah, and that's why I understand about protected classes and unprotected. There's a guy, Joe Bob Briggs, is a drive-in movie critic, and he writes for Talkies, and he pointed out that rednecks saved Hollywood because you can't stereotype, or you need a good villain in the movies, and it can't be a black guy, and it can't be a Mexican, and it can't be a Muslim terrorist anymore. So thank God for rednecks, because we can use and abuse them. We can make fun of them. You can't make fun of Asians and Jews and gays, and but Southern rednecks, white men, there are protected classes and there are unprotected classes. And the white Southern cisgendered heterosexual male is at the bottom of the rung,
And if your name is Bubba, you're really there. I mean, I
absolutely think that's a concerted effort. This deep state that everybody is talking about has absolutely, or I call it the New World Disorder, has taken over the narrative for this protected species or protected classes of people, or however you want to call it, is in fact going to result in the destruction of any host nation that continues along these absurd lines. After all, and I'm not sure where this came from, but I know that to be wise, wisdom is essentially calling things by their correct name. And if you cannot do that without someone calling you a homophobe or Islamophobe or misogynistic, these are just names that designed to actually subvert the truth. And that's it. And anybody that goes along with that, especially nowadays in this political diversive climate between Republican and Democrat, I think we have a serious issue here where, and it seems like it's across the board on the Democrat side, that they are intent. They are focused on destroying the United States in the name of this, under the guise of communism or socialism or fascism, however you want to ism, all these isms. The ultimate goal is world domination, and I think Islam poses a danger to our country, to weaken it, where then you get this new world disorder come in here and just wipe everybody. Well, first of all, we'll wipe each other out, and then the new world order will take over, making it very easy for their global dominance in the end. Because you know these white bubbas, these white boys over in Europe, you know, that control all the money, you know, they're at the top of this pyramid. So that's what I'm seeing.
Well, yeah, you're right. What's in the name? You know, what's in the, I there was a little paper that I put out a while back. Just call it Enigma. Did I send that to you, Dr. Art? It's a list of 10 enigmas. This came out after I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, the Papa John's founder, who's in such trouble now. I wrote the word enigmas maybe because maybe people would say, is he calling people nasty words by saying enigma? I don't know. So here's I posted 10 things. Let me number 9 in the list is and I pose this, if a white businessman makes a mistake and publicly says the N-word, hundreds of innocent people are financially hurt. But if a black businessman says certain white folks are crackers, he is applauded and rewarded with summer sausage and cheese slices. You know where the word cracker comes from, right, guys?
Whip cracker, right?
Whip cracker, yeah. You're a slave master. You go dirty cracker, whack. So it's okay. Why is that anomaly? And then it goes like what you said, Dr. Art, and so I have number 10. Referring to gay folks as, I'm going to be politically incorrect here, queer, will get you quickly labeled an intolerant homophobe, but it's totally okay now for the official national movement to call themselves LGBT queer, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Is that an enigma or what?
Right, like you shouldn't say, don't say colored people, that's racist. It's people of color. Wait a minute, you just put an of in there and switch the word order. How does it make, like there's a memo and it comes out every few weeks.
I mean,
that's part of the whole culty aspect of it. The micromanaging and keeping you on your, okay, now today we all do this.
Well, Art, Dr. Art, when you came on and said that we have a problem with the wrong type of immigration almost being an invasion, let me just start. I want to just throw these enigmas out here. I got a lot of this kind of went for me kind of semi-viral. A couple thousand people to me is pretty big. Number 1 enigma: isn't it weird that in America our flag and our culture offend so many people, but our benefits don't? Is that number? Wow, what enigma that is. Go ahead, comment.
Did you want me to respond to that?
Sure, jump in.
Because I think there's some kind of an underlying pathology behind that. First of all, and I think is that Philip in the Philippines?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you do, sir? I also
It's been excellent. It's been nice to be on here with you.
My pleasure. People want to take offense, and again, this is a concerted effort to quiet and destroy the culture and history of the United States of America, and these little digs they throw out there all the time are slowly chipping away at our constitutional processes and our way of life, our very way of life. That's what I see.
You're right. You got 2020 vision too, and you got I got 2010 vision. Anyway, enigma number 2. Enigma number 2. How can the federal government ask United States citizens to pay back their student loans when illegal aliens are receiving a free education? Enigma.
I wouldn't know if it would be an enigma or some kind of a psychopathic viewpoint. That is way off base and doesn't even come close to reality. And you're right. They cannot ask the American student to pay back loans when they are illegally and giving away billions of dollars to people that shouldn't even be in the country to begin with. So, yeah, right. That is an enigma. I can't figure it out.
But they have a right to free education. Hey, okay, ready for number 3?
Oh, yes, sir.
I have been right here because I have so much hate mail over the decades that I've been doing radio. Ooh, it's nasty. When they start threatening, because I know where you live, you sucker. Yeah, well, okay. Number 3, only in America are legal citizens like Dr. H. Ruat and Dr. Arthur Evangelista. Only in America are legal citizens labeled racists and Nazis. But illegal aliens are called dreamers. Is that an enigma or what? Come on, give me a break. Enigma number 4. Our liberal friends like Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and others, liberals say if confiscating all guns, and this is for you, Dr. Arthur. Liberals say if confiscating all guns saves just one life, it's worth it. Well, I say, damn it. Well, then if deporting all illegals saves just one life, wouldn't that be worth it? That's an enigma. Now, I said this. There was a rally here. You know, here in Utah. I don't know if you know this, guys, but it hasn't been so much lately. But a while back, you know, there was this silly movie that came out about I forget the name of the movie. It was a Hispanic movie about taking back your country. You know, because Utah and much of California and area was historically part of Mexico until the Treaty of Guadalupe, you know, and ceded it to the United States. When Brigham Young and the Mormon pioneers came here, okay, and settled in the Great Basin, it was a part of Mexico. It was Spanish, okay. So there's this big movement to say, well, we owned this land and we had it before you. I say, well, wait a minute. Before you guys came and stole it from the Native Americans, we should all give it back to them. Please don't get me started. So here, there was this big protest where they were waving the Mexican flag and so proudly saluting it. So here's enigma number 5. I just can't quite figure out how you can proudly wave the flag of another country, but consider it punishment to be sent back there. I says, you like that flag so much, sucker? Go back there. And I'm a hateful racist.
All the people who hated Donald Trump when he got elected and said they were going to leave the country. Notice that and they all got mad when he called, Mexico and places like it an S-hole. But notice they all said they were moving to Canada. Because
Good
Mexico's
point. That's an enigma, and I'm not saying the N-word. That's enigma. All right. Are we having fun yet, guys? I don't know. This is for Dick in the first hour, and if he's still listening, hats off. Number 6 is
he's right here.
The Constitution. Now, this is my enigma number 6. The Constitution, it doesn't need to be rewritten. You hearing me, you liberals out there? It don't need to be rewritten. It only needs to be reread. And you needed to call up Mr. Dick and say, hey, help us understand it. The words mean something. Thank you, Dick, for that.
You're entirely welcome. I hear people saying, we need change. No, we need correction.
Yeah, the only person that needs change is a stinky diaper on a baby. I don't think.
And the politicians.
Yeah, drain that swamp. Hey, you've ever heard of William F. Buckley? He's one of them. I love what he what he was.
Yeah.
William F. Buckley said this quote. This is my enigma number 7. Quote: liberals claim to want to give a hearing to other points of view, and are then shocked and offended when they discover there are other points of view. Isn't that the truth? Is that an enigma or what?
That's right on, Dr. Ott.
So here's number 8. Joseph Sobran said, the word need now means wanting someone else's money. Greed means wanting to keep your own. Compassion is when a politician arranges the transfer. I love what he said about, ain't that the truth? I mean, this is what's all about. I mean, this is what you're there in Montana for, guys. You just want, I love what you put out, Dr. Ard. Don't the old rattlesnakes flag. Don't tread on me. Don't stomp on me. Hey, these enigmas, people are sick of it. People are sick of the double speak, the forked tongue. It really is, and you got to say it. You got to say it like you mean it, folks. You got to say it and put it out there. Let's make sense of this craziness.
About what you just said about the greed and all, if people would stop and think. Now, you have a man who is careful with his money. Now, depending on your viewpoint of this particular man who is being careful with his money, one might call him frugal, which carries a positive connotation. Now, if you don't happen to like this particular guy, you're going to call him stingy or greedy because he wants to hang on to his money. Miser. Or a miser. And therein lies the problem. We're letting our words describe who we are in an area where we are not even close to that. And it is very easy for people to distort the context of our language in order to pursue a particular political agenda. And I think that's where we're headed, or that's where we've been for the last 8 years anyway. As I see it.
Well said. I concur 100%. Philip, jump in.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Oh, that's okay. You took a nap. You took it. There's an enigma there that somewhere I can make up a number 11 there, but I'll be.
Oh, yeah, well, I can add a number 12 to that too, Philip.
As you go.
I'm up a little earlier than I generally am. It was up a little later than usual, and that cup of coffee didn't quite fully jumpstart the noggin, I don't guess.
Well, let's talk about you then, Philip. I got to ask you some questions. You know, a major stepped out, and he's always been so helpful and brings good color. Is that being racist if I say color commentating? Um, you know, so here you are, a Southern boy. What are you doing in the Philippines? What are you doing this work with A-chan? Talk to me. What are you doing?
You know, honestly, I consider it living the dream. You know, like I told Burdock and the rest of the Goldwater team over here, a decade ago, when I'd first discovered image boards, over a decade ago, you know, when I was just a lowly entry-level 4chan troll, you know, and a bit of a conspiracy theorist and whatnot, you know, since the early 90s, in between Art Bell and the JFK assassination fever of the early 90s, you know, I've been kind of hooked on the parapolitical scene. So, you know, been a writer. I'll say I've been a writer for half my life, since the about 99, 2000 was when I was first in print. Most of that time I was what you call semi-professional. In other words, like, you don't get paid most of the time except in free copies. But in the last, 3 years or so, I've been fortunate enough to actually make a living doing what I love. But yeah, no, I would definitely say I'm living the dream. If I had a time machine and I traveled back to like 2006, 2007, and said, to the younger version of myself, hey Phil, one day there will be an 8chan, and it will be twice as 4chan as 4chan, and they're going to have a news service. You're going to be a reporter and editor for this news service. I wouldn't be surprised at the existence of time travel, because I've already pretty much assumed that it exists in some form somewhere. Wait, what? I'm going to be a writer for 8chan's news service? That would be what blew my mind. So yeah, I would say I'm living the dream over here. Yeah, I love Tennessee, but a joke I like to tell, the best thing, if you're from Tennessee, you can be in Mongolia sleeping next to a yak herder in a yurt. But if they ask you, where are you from? And you say, I'm from Tennessee, where Jack Daniels and Elvis are from. Well, everybody in the world knows Jack Daniels and Elvis. Thing is, though, the best thing about being from Tennessee is being far from Tennessee, because when you're there, there's nobody to brag about being from Tennessee to, because they are too.
Awesome. Go Volunteers. And let me just say, those that are listening that don't know this, the latest statistics place 8chan as the position number 17 in worldwide media now. That's phenomenal. Did you know that?
No, I actually didn't.
Absolutely.
I didn't either.
So you guys are ascending. You got press credentials to cover the Singapore summit.
Wow, yeah, that was nice. I gotta admit, it was nice being able to get, had our little lanyards and everything. Yeah.
So congratulations. Let's talk about this QAnon. Okay, there's been, that's part of what the 8chan is putting out. And of course, Redfoot Alex was a big part of that, because he's been cut off. Talk about losing freedom. He's tucked away in a jail cell as we speak there, we've done shows on his situation, his plight. He's in our prayers. He's in our support. He's a friend and a brother in arms, and he doesn't have the support base like I have, or others, family. I mean, what Alex's story is to me now is how quickly they can take you out now. He has done nothing but brandish a BB gun, for heaven's sakes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. His latest letter that I just received from him, he's trying to keep upbeat. He's trying to make. He says, the good news is I've lost 30 pounds working out.
I haven't had the best of food. It's pretty nasty food. So I work out. I'm getting in shape, and that's awesome that he's taking some lemons and making some lemonade. And I just wish him the best. But I think the die is cast because you see, he's in a liberal of all liberal areas there in San Francisco, where if you brandish a water pistol, you can likely get a SWAT team after you. Okay, and he walks around with truth on his lips, and to the point where he even wears T-shirts that say such terrible things as "boycott Israel." I mean, come on. And I looked at his new digs a while back, and I was kind of amazed because not I think it's like 2 blocks away. There's a very, very large Jewish synagogue. I'm just gonna imagine what the people in his neighborhood think when he sees him walking around with "boycott Israel" and bumper stickers on his car that they get out. I mean, talk about a cracker. I mean, and talk about a Bubba. In a bad way. But see, this is, where's your ability to but I made the statement to my wife and friends. I says, if Alex Studer was a flaming, almost radical, in your face homosexual promoter, he'd be elevated to stardom.
Right.
Think about it.
Well, I got something for Alex when he comes out. That when you're in Rome, you better do what the Romans do, and in clandestine services, we call it being a gray man. If you first of all, he's behind enemy lines because of the way he thinks, and there's going to be a consequence to that when he gets called out on it. So. If you're gonna risk being an individual in San Francisco and value freedom and liberty, then you might as well expect that there's going to be a serious consequence for that at some point. So I'm going to try and help Alex get out of that Californication and move to Montana, Utah, or Idaho, where he can actually be with people that believe the same things he does and acts in retrospect to be able to support their individuality, people who respect the integrity of someone else's ideas. If you're going to be in California, no matter what you think, no matter what you do, that's just not going to work out. That's just reality. And apparently, he's unfortunately for Alex, the good man that he is, he's finding out that he just can't walk around doing those kinds of things where he is. And hopefully, when he gets out, he'll pack his bags and come out someplace where people will actually appreciate who he is.
Yeah, I hear you. I've had this discussion with him over the years. I really have. And, his attitude is, why should I leave? This is my country. This is where I was born. This is my home. And he's got a good point. He's like, I know what the truth is. I'm not afraid to say the truth. And anybody that will listen. Now, in his letter, I got to tell you this. I didn't share this with you, Art, before, but there was one paragraph of his letter that the prosecutor is mounting a case as to why the $2 million cash-only bond. Now, get this. They're saying he is completely, totally, terroristically, mentally deranged for actually promoting the idea, hold on to it, that we live on a flat earth. Now, whether we do or we do not is irrelevant. But when they start saying, if you even think that, you're so mentally deranged that you need to be locked away. That's a dangerous mindset. I'm sorry.
You know what? I just had a discussion about that with the local police department regarding someone who has psychological issues. And you know what I was told? And this is the way they look at it in Montana. being psychologically different or being crazy doesn't constitute a criminal offense unless you actually hurt somebody.
Exactly.
But in San Francisco, if you're not wearing those flowers in your hair, you're going to be put away in the bars. Behind the bars. And that's just the way it is, Bubba.
Love
well,
how
you got
power
people out there that are just deranged or delusional, and they're not dealing with reality. And I think if you step into a situation like that, you better have a clear understanding of where you are, what your environment is. And
well, I got to tell you, in my little neck of the woods here, you know, I like to debate. It's a lot of times for the sake of debating, okay? And I it goes back to my days in college, and I would debate. I have trophies on the wall and plaques for winning debate teams. You know, I just like to debate. Maybe I should be an attorney. I don't know, but when I shared with you, Dr. Art, on the phone some of the key things about this debate I had with the philosophy department, and they're just like, whoa, you know. We have a shout out to Jeff if he's listening. Jeff Val, you know, just likes to tease people on this issue, and yet, listen, it's a spiritual issue to me. I mean, and I say this because of the archaeological evidence. Now, follow this through. I know this may be off on a tangent, but it really talks about liberty, about your freedom of thought. Now, get this. Do you know that the Babylonian city of Nineveh, the same Nineveh that Jonah of the Old Testament was told by God to go and declare the word, that Nineveh was going to be destroyed. They had reached such a level of ripeness of iniquity. Okay, read the whole story. It's an amazing thing. You know, Jonah was not a fictional character. He was not a mythology. You know why? Because Nineveh is a real place. That's what's cool about the biblical archaeological. I mean, I've been lucky enough to be part of archaeological digs and teams in the Middle East. You know, they call like Tel Aviv, that city. Tel means a hill or a high spot, and every high spot had strategic importance. It was a city. Okay, there was the Tel of Jericho, you know, where Joshua fought the battle and the wall came tumbling down. You know what? We've dug there, and there is a wall, and it fell inward, and everything is exactly like the Bible said. Imagine that. My point is, Nineveh, this incredible city of high tech of the time and era, they have uncovered archaeological cuneiform tablets that are stunning. You see, Nineveh was the epicenter of what's called Baal, B-A-A-L, Baal, Baalim, or Satan. It's the dark forces. Okay, the reason why it was an epicenter is because they had these huge astronomical observatories, and they knew that the sun was the center of the universe and the earth was a globe spinning around it. This is documented in the archaeological evidence. You see, that's diametrically opposite to what the book of Genesis in the Holy Bible tells us. So, was Jonah just fictional? Was he really, you know? And so I said to my Christian pastor, I says, you know, you can't be a double-minded man. You just can't. You can't pick and choose which part of the Bible you think is valid about the feel-good story of Jesus and him resurrected. That's all good. But the whole Bible has to be taken in context as a whole, or you're missing the big part of the story. The central core tenet of Baal worship, whether it was the days of Jonah or whether you fast forward to Queen Jezebel and King Ahab, Jezebel and Ahab were Israelites, okay? They were the chosen race. What made them so emboldened or so loyal to the Baal message? Because you see, it's the same today, Dr. Art and Phil. It really is the same thing. It's what's popular. It's what the god of this world, Satan, aka Baal, aka Beelzebub, same guy, okay, is what makes it popular. And so when you have a Christian author like Edward Henry coming out and say, this is the biggest lie of all time, guys, because it goes back to antiquity. It goes back into what is the creation all about? Who is God, really? See, because either he created this world or he didn't. If we didn't create this world, then by all means, this God of materialism, this God of Satanism, of child sacrifice, of worship, of loss of freedom, okay? This God, you see, is the rightful ruler, if you want to use that term, because this is all just accidental. We all just we're on an evolutionary scale. We have to be able to let other people have their way. We got to support the LGBTQ agenda because you see we're all diverse. We don't have to exclude anybody. We include everybody. You see, that's the danger. That's why this hinge is so important. So when I read in Alex Studer's letter that the prosecution is saying this guy is dangerous, a lunatic, and his new defense attorney that he said, well, he may use that as okay, like a judo move, to say, well, my client is innocent because of insanity. I mean, whoa, no. If Alex Studer is insane on this subject and in your face on this subject, it's only because he's defending the King James Bible, which explains it in detail. That's exactly the Bible's a flat earth book, folks. I mean, even atheists that claim there is no God, they mockingly say, if you believe the Bible, you're a nutcase because it's a flat earth book. I mean to tell you. Now I'm just saying, well, I can defend God's word against attackers because there's evidence. You can see it. You can measure it. You can quote Ptolemy and Euclidean geometry, and you got people of philosophy professors like, oh, I can't argue. Either this Dr. Ott is flat out crazier than crazy, or he's smarter than the average duck. I don't know which it is. So they tend to go, he's crazy. Let's ignore him. Let's lock him away. That's the issue. I'm gonna shut up. I wasn't even gonna go there, but it's important as we talk about the whole picture, and it goes down to it goes down to one thing, guys, and that's called it's a word called truth, truth. Either truth is truth or it's a lie, and you got to figure out which one it is. That's the enigma number 11. Come on now, Dr. Art, did you have your bourbon yet?
Yeah, I'm right at the edge right now.
we got done with this conversation because when we had a phone conversation and because of that I asked you to be on the show, of course. You said we had a falling out with Alex because Alex is he's short fused. Okay, if somebody says it and he doesn't, he'll say you're crazy. You go and that's he's he kind of chewed you out for you say he was crazy for believing in flat Earth. I can just imagine Alex saying, "That's it, we're done."
Oh yeah, but I don't think the guy has to go to prison for that.
No, it's not, and you gotta agree to disagree. There's such a logic behind it, as I explained to you. But how long did we talk? About an hour and a half, And you were so funny. He says, "I gotta go take a shot of bourbon after talking to you. I can't handle this stuff." Oh golly, isn't that?
Wells and I, we're brandy. I guess Dick's a brandy drinker.
Well, again, a little moderation in all things.
Any brandy, it has to be Corbel.
Korbel. Oh yeah. I like a nice little brand. I do like it. I like a little Crown Royal. I like that's kind of smooth.
Does it have to be little?
Yeah. Hey, Philip, you're from Tennessee, and you say Jack Daniels. Come on.
Oh yeah. I stand by. As far as I'm not a big liquor drinker. I'll drink a beer or two. Rarely do I have liquor, but when I do indulge, Jack's near the top of the list. I also I got a taste for Remy Martin, which is some really nice cognac, but Jack, and even better, there's the Gentleman Jack, which is the top shelf Jack. It's got like some vanilla and caramel tones added into the, just regular oaky Jack taste. Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I have not been in the mountains of Tennessee. That's one of the places I'm gonna go visit there. I love it. But yeah, back in the Prohibition era, here in my home state, my hometown of Ogden, there was a huge underground tunnel system of where they came in and brought in the speakeasies all kinds of liquor from Canada, and it was quite a thriving business. In fact, the story goes in Ogden there was a mobster from Chicago. He's a famous mobster that came up on. He was traveling to California by train from Chicago. And he came to stay a night in Ogden. He says, "This town's too tough for me. It's crazy." But I say that because of what goes on. You realize, you have to have sugar, right, to create the fermentation, right? So anytime you look at who controls the sugar is, they've whittled out themselves a lot of stock in the distillery business, corporate. Especially if you're in an era like during the Prohibition and then into the later Depression years, where you control the sugar, you control so much of the alcohol industry. Well, the LDS Mormon Church has, they have a monopoly on sugar. Do you know that?
Wow, no, I did not know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a fellow who did his master's thesis on this in Utah State University, the role of the LDS Church in controlling the sugar. They basically they leveraged loans from J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller from Wall Street to basically control in 1910, 1920 the whole entire sugar industry. They bought up plantations and sugarcane plantations. They had all of this California and Hawaii C&H sugar, Utah and Idaho sugar companies, and then they expanded internationally. So the Mormon Church owns a major share in the world's sugar industry yet today. It's amazing truth. Yeah.
Talk about being pivotal. I mean, if you were gonna deal in one particular commodity, they certainly have chosen a commodity that is required by almost every other industry. That puts them in a very, very good position monetarily.
Yeah. Yeah, the big Mormon church-owned interest in Florida, the Deseret Land and Livestock Company that owns just amazing amounts of prime real estate all around Disney World down there. All of these, this started as, buying the sugar cane plantations. And you talk about cotton and being, the African Americans being brought into slavery. It was more than anything, it was the sugar industry that brought the slavery in. The laboring so intensive with the sugar cane and the processing of the sugar. Sugar, there's a great naturopathic story about sugar. Probably is one of the worst drugs, the most addictive thing on the planet. It's actually more addictive than cocaine, and it's so deadly, it's so dangerous, Dr. Art.
Absolutely, you're right.
And then the fact that it's so widely accessible and socially accepted, people don't think about it, you know? Like, if you smoke crack or drink to excess, there's social stigma attached to that. Meanwhile, people are literally killing themselves with sugar, and they give it to their kids. They give their kids sugary sodas and candies that are just artificial flavors and food coloring and just pure sugar. Yes, it's definitely one of the dirtiest and most addictive drugs.
Is it interesting?
I wonder if unrefined sugar would be more beneficial than, because once we refine anything, if that's table salt, sugar, or any other product, I think if it's unrefined and left in its natural state, I'm not sure it would be as toxic or carcinogenic.
You're right. You're absolutely right. The raw white, I mean the brown sugar is processed differently. It's not as neurotoxic by far as the white refined sugar. You're absolutely right. And molasses, sugar, sugary sweet honey and that type of thing, fine. It's just that when you refine it into the white crystalline form, it becomes a very, very toxic chemical. And you look at, what is Kool-Aid, right? Wow, it's like just a little bit of flavoring with 8 cups of sugar per half gallon. It's amazing amount of sugar. We look at Reverend Jones in Guyana and Jonestown, right? Passing out the Kool-Aid. The reality is he gave Kool-Aid to these people all from day one. They were Kool-Aid junkies. Oh man, it's like, okay, that's why it was so shocking when I uncovered and read that master's thesis and documenting the history of sugar, not only in America, but the world, and them leveraging in concert with Jewish money interests in New York that allowed them to do that. Wow, it was just a ton. The Mormon Church leveraged everything they owned, including their property at Temple Square in downtown Salt Lake. It was mortgaged to the hilt to the Union Banking Corporation through the series of loans, and they were doing great during the 1910s and 1920s when Heber J. Grant did the brokering of these loans. So they were definitely in the black ink until Wall Street crashed in 1929. When the money supply constricted, people weren't able to buy their sweets anymore. Sugar sales and stocks plummeted, and by 1933, this is documented well, the Mormon Church had trouble. They had to foreclose. They were foreclosed on all their properties. So the Jewish banking interests basically came in and reorganized and restructured the Mormon Church and made it a corporate entity. This is exactly how they did it with the United States, America. I mean, it's the same thing. That's who the Lord and Master is. Mammon, the love of money.
I'm sure that just boggles my mind.
You better go have a drink there, author. It's getting late. Have a nightcap. I see. This is why I am not a popular man in Mormon Utah. It's so easy to say, "Oh, Dr. Rod, you are flat out crazy." So yeah, my family and friends, even my Christian friends, are saying, "You don't believe this biblical cosmology." We're like, yeah, I really believe Joshua chapter 10, verse 12 is literal. That the sun stops still and the moon stops still because it's the sun and the moon, according to Joshua, that are moving, not the earth. I happen to believe that to be literal. Excuse me. Yeah, it's fun. When you go out, like I told you, Dr. R, when you go out on the Great Salt Lake or any large body of fresh water like Lake Padre, but I know, hey, that water is flat. Hey, we're out of time. It's fun talking to you guys. So thank you, Dick. Thank you, Dr. Art. Thank you, Philip. Great show.
Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome next week. I've got to be gone in 2 weeks, actually, so